The story begins abroad, a futuristic spaceship on a groundbreaking mission. This spacecraft is designed to carry an entire research team to a distant planet, one that closely resembles Earth. The journey, however, spans an extraordinary 90 years, and to ensure the passengers don't age, they are placed in specialized sleeping chambers. These advanced pods keep the crew in a state of deep suspended sleep, preserving their health and vitality throughout the trip. These sleeping chambers are marvels of technology programmed to sustain the passenger's body and only awaken them upon arrival at their new home. The spaceship, equipped with cutting-edge system, glide smoothly through space, steadily progressing toward its destination. As the ship moves through space, it suddenly runs into a field of asteroids. Some of these rocks hit the spaceship, but even though the crash caused some damage, the ship quickly fixes everything and keeps moving. But something strange happens. One of the sleeping pods suddenly turns on, and the person inside starts to wake up. It was Jim's pod. The machine connected to Jim's body started moving, signaling that his sleeping pod was opening. The spaceship had only traveled for 30 years, and now, after 3 decades of deep sleep, Jim woke up. At the first, he felt dizzy and disoriented, but after a while, he managed to regain his balance and started feeling normal. Curious and a little confused, Jim began exploring the spaceship. He walked into a large hall, the place where all the passengers were supposed to gather at the end of the journey. But the hall was completely empty. There wasn't even a single person there. Worried, Jim searched the spaceship, hoping to find someone. But he soon realized he was completely alone. Desperate for answers, Jim decided to head to the control room. But when he got there, he found the door locked, and it could only be opened with the team leader's ID card. Jim decided to gather information about its location. He wanted to figure out where the spaceship was at the moment. The system revealed that the ship was still 90 years away from its destination. This meant Jim had been woken up 90 years too early. Disheartened and overwhelmed, he struggled to process the reality of his situation. As he went to the spaceship, Jim suddenly thought he saw someone in the distance. But as he got closer, he realized it wasn't a person, but a humanoid robot. Determined to fix his situation, Jim found some tools and tried to repair his sleeping chamber, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make it work. Frustrated, he shifted his focus to control room. Using the tools, he attempted to cut through the control room door, but the door was built so strong that it was impossible to get through. As he moved around the ship, Jim noticed that some of its other systems were starting to malfunction. Despite this, he ignored the growing problem and turned his attention back to the humanoid robot. Jim started talking to the robot, expressing his frustration. He feels like he's stuck on a spaceship forever. No one is going to help him, and he's going to die here all alone. The robot calmly responds, "These are humans' weaknesses. They always want what they don't have. Instead, they should learn to appreciate what they do have." These words had a deep impact on Jim. He began to look at his situation differently and decided to make the best of what was available to him. There were plenty of activities and games on board, and Jim started using them to keep himself entertained. He tried to live happily and enjoy his time. One day while walking, Jim slipped and fell. As he got up, his eye caught sight of a sleeping chamber. Inside was a girl named Aurora, lying peacefully in a deep sleep. Jim immediately recognized her. Back on Earth, he used to admire Aurora. She was someone he liked, but he never had the courage to tell her. Seeing her now brought back all those feelings. Curious, Jim began watching videos of her interviews stored in the ship's system, learning more about her thoughts and dreams. His feelings for Aurora grew stronger with each passing day. Eventually, a thought crossed his mind. What if he wake her up early? He knew it was wrong, but he couldn't stop himself from thinking about it. After much internal struggle, he made the difficult decision. He was going to wake Aurora up. Jim noticed his hair and beard had grown a lot, so he decided to cut it. After finishing, he grabbed his toolbox and went to Aurora's chamber. Using one of the tools, he managed to send some electricity to the system, which caused the chamber to open. But just as the chamber opened, Aurora's eyes suddenly popped open, and she stared at Jim. Panicked, Jim grabbed his toolbox and ran off, hiding the tools so she wouldn't find out that he had woken her up. Aurora slowly started to wake up and get out of her pod. When she saw Jim, she asked about the rest of the crew. Jim nervously told her that her chamber and his were both broken. Aurora was scared and quickly went to check the other chambers. When she saw they were all empty, she realized Jim was right. This made her panic even more. Jim tried to calm her down. The next day, Aurora went to the food machine, which gave her a variety of different food since she was a gold-class passenger. Aurora was used to having different types of food, but when she found out that Jim had been eating the same kind of food, she felt sorry for him. So using her gold-class ID, she shared some of her food with him. Aurora then tried to break into the control room, but she couldn't do it either. Realizing that they were both stuck, she decided to focus on finishing her book. Later, Aurora asked Jim, "Is there anything to do around here?" On that, Jim smiled and replied, "There's actually a lot you can do. You can dance, play games, and there's other activities too." Excited, they started dancing together and had a lot of fun. They laughed and enjoyed the moment, feeling more at ease with the situation. Over time, they became close friends. The next day, they celebrated Aurora's birthday together. along with a robot. Jim wanted to give her a ring as a gift, hoping it would show her how much he liked her. But during the conversation, the robot revealed that Jim had intentionally opened Aurora's chamber, and it wasn't a malfunction. Aurora gets heartbroken. She felt betrayed by the one person she trusted the most. She started crying, consumed by anger and sadness. She stopped talking to Jim, and she became so furious that one night while he was asleep, she went to him and punched him. In that moment, she almost killed him, but somehow she managed to control her emotions before going any further. The next day, Jim admits that yes, he made a mistake. After being alone for so long, he went a little crazy, but Aurora refuses to listen to him and starts shouting at him in anger. The following day, Jim was in the lift when it suddenly stopped due to a malfunction. He tries to fix it and manages to open the lift doors with his hands. At the same time, Aurora goes to the food machine, but it malfunctioned too, throwing a lot of food at her. Both of them were confused, wondering what's going on. Just then, they hear a voice. They rush to check and find that the head of their team has also woken up. The team leader quickly discovers the malfunction as well. He opens the door to the control room and goes inside to check for other issues, but he couldn't find anything wrong, so the three of them decide to check the malfunction on the spaceship themselves. As they move forward, a robot suddenly falls in front of them. The leader looks at it and says, "This is the 15th robot that's been damaged." He then heads to Aurora's sleeping chamber. He finds that it's been tampered and opened by Jim, but the leader says nothing to Jim, understanding that being alone for years could drive anyone to madness. Just then, the leader suddenly starts feeling sick. He returns to his room and notices blood coming out of his mouth. One night, the spaceship lights suddenly go out, causing the gravity to shut off completely. Without gravity, they started floating in the air. Aurora, who was in the pool, gets trapped inside a large water bubble. She struggles to escape and begins suffocating. Just as her life is about to end, the ship restarts when the electricity comes back on. Aurora manages to get out of the pool, and Jim, who was floating, returns to his bed. The two of them notice more malfunction in the AI system. They headed toward the power supply where all electricity is stored, but once there, the team leader suddenly passes out. A full body scan reveals that he has 612 diseases, and his tissues are slowly deteriorating. He is going to die soon. Saddened by this, the leader called Jim and Aurora over, telling them, "Take care of each other after I'm gone. Live with love." He gives him his ID, which allows him to access anything on the ship, and with that, he dies. After leaving the leader's body behind, Aurora and Jim went to fixing the ship. Suddenly, everything started floating in the air again because of a malfunction. One of the robots was harming itself, so Aurora quickly went to it and shut it down. They continued working, replacing damaged parts, but when they opened the door to leave the power supply room, they found a large hole in the ship. They managed to close it, but soon they found more holes. When they reached the main power supply, they discovered that the entire electricity system was broken. They worked fast to replace the parts, but as they did, the temperature inside kept rising. They tried to open the door to release the heat, but it wouldn't open. Jim put on a suit and went outside to open the door. The heat inside was getting unbearable. He pulled the lever to open the door, but as soon as he let go, it shut again. He realized that in order to keep it open, he had to hold the lever, but the heat would pass through him and could harm him. Even with the risk, Jim decided to hold the lever. The door opened and the heat started to escape. He told Aurora to pull the lever, but she refused, not wanting to risk his life. But with the temperature rising, she had no choice but to do it. As the heat poured out, Jim lost his balance and fell. The safety wire broke, and even though the ship was safe, Jim was drifting away into space. His suit had a hole in it, and he was getting further from the ship. Aurora, determined to save him, quickly put on a suit and went outside to help. She saw Jim floating far away from her, but she didn't give up. She reached out and they almost held hands, but they stepped apart. She started crying, thinking she had lost him, but then she noticed the wire attached to him. She quickly grabbed it and pulled him back into the ship. Jim's suit was burned, and his condition was bad for being in space for too long. Aurora took off his suit and put him in the medical machine, ordering it to treat him. The machine worked, but Jim didn't show any signs of improvement. Then just as Aurora was losing hope, Jim opened his eyes. Once Jim recovered, they worked together to fix the ship. They respectfully laid the team leader's body to rest, dressed him in clothes, and placed a badge on him. Jim found another working sleeping chamber, and he suggested Aurora sleep there, so she could wake up after 90 years when they would finally reach their destination. But she refused, saying she wouldn't leaving him. They decided to face the future together, whatever it may bring. Years passed, and one day, Jim gave Aurora a ring, and she wore it, feeling happy.